Good morning or afternoon, class. I hope you're super excited because we're going to conquer dihybrid crosses. Different than what you may have done in middle school with a monohybrid cross. A dihybrid cross is different because it looks at two different traits. A monohybrid cross only looks at one trait. Now, that one trait may come in two or more different forms. Those forms are called alleles. Like, for example, for height, there may be tall and short. And you may plug that into a monohybrid cross and see what the possible outcomes are between a father and a mother to give us the probability of 4 different chances of offspring. Well, with the dihybrid cross, we're not looking at just one trait, like tall and short. We're looking at 2 different traits. So maybe tall and short as one trait, and then maybe the eye color. So actually I'm going to use the pea plants that Mendel used to help explain. Let me grab the whiteboard. So I have here a parent. Let's say this is the father, and let's say this is a pea plant. It is a tall pea plant because it has the dominant trait for being tall over the short recessive trait, little t. But then the pea plant also does round seeds as opposed to wrinkled seeds, which is recessive, little r. These letters can mean anything. I'm just assigning them something so then we can keep track of what's what. So we have a father here that has a trait, a phenotype of being tall and has round seeds, but is a carrier for having wrinkled seeds and a carrier for being a short plant. And we're going to figure out how to do this in a dihybrid cross. You may remember from math class, FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Well, we're going to need FOIL to figure out the probability and then plug this into a dihybrid cross. So, FOIL. Let's see if I can switch around. Since I'm left-handed, I have to hold this with my right hand. Alright, so FOIL. The first 2 letters, the first possibilities. Capital T and a capital R is our first 2 combinations that we could get. So I'm going to plug that in here, capital T, capital R. Then outer for O. That capital T could also bond with this lowercase r. That's the next possibility. Capital T, lowercase r. Then the inner 2. This little t can't be neglected. It can also bond with the other 2 r's. So it could bond first with this capital R, that's the inner 2, little t, big R. And then we don't want to forget the last possibility. That little t could also bond with the little r. So little t, little r. That's our last 2 possibility. So first, outer. That would be these 2, the inner, the middle ones, and the last 2, the last T and the last R. This will apply the same for all the other different letters, because I could have other letters up here, but just following FOIL, it'll apply for all of them. So, once I have these 4 possibilities, this is what Dad could donate on a dihybrid cross. So, when making the gametes, could end up with any of these 4 being, and since we're talking about plants, could end up being the pollen, the individual cell of pollen. All 4 of these would get made, but only one of these would make it to fertilize and make the seed for the next plant. So let me actually grab the other whiteboard real quick. This is a dihybrid cross board. So it has 4 by 4 squares, 4 across and 4 down, all the way over. We need to plug in that data from the previous chart into this one. And since that was Dad, we're going to plug it along the top in the same order. So the first 2 was a capital T and a capital R. That was our very first possibility. The next one was a capital T and a lowercase r. That was our next possibility. The third one was a lowercase t and a capital R. And the last was a lowercase t and a lowercase r, following the order from the previous one. So if I hold it up, they match. Now, you might be wondering, what about mom? Well, we would have to do the same thing for moms, and we would go down along the board. The first, outer, inner, last. Same order. But just to save time and make this a little bit simple, I'm going to just write in some. I'm going to suppose that mom's genotype is exactly the same as dad's. So they're going to be identical. So mom will also give us capital T, capital R, capital T, lowercase r, lowercase t, capital R, and both lowercase, just like dad. Same thing, mirrored image. So what do we do to plug this in? Well, we've got to bring down dad's genetic information and bring over mom's genetic information. So the very first box, which is top left, would be dad's DNA and mom's DNA, which is capital T, and also the R's, capital R, capital R. So capital T, capital R, capital R. The next one, right here, would be capital T. Now we have a lowercase r and a capital R for mom. We're going to put the capital one first, keeping with the theme of T's before R's, and then we're going to put the dominant trait before any recessive trait, still following the order of letters. So we've got the same problem here. Dad has lowercase t, but mom has a capital T. So we're going to put the capital T first, followed by the lowercase t, and then 2 capital R's for both dad and mom. The last one, dad has homozygous recessive for both traits, and then homozygous dominant for both traits in mom. So capital T, lowercase t, capital R, lowercase r. You can continue down and fill in all the others to figure out what the genotype is. Now, why is there 4 letters in each box? Well, because this is our offspring. This is our chance for each one of the offspring. And you're going to inherit a trait from dad and mom for each of these. So there should be dad and mom's genetic code representative for both letters. So 2 T's, because one came from dad, one came from mom. 2 R's, because one came from dad and one came from mom. Now, can we do it a step higher? Can we do 3 traits instead of just 2? We did 1, now we're up to 2 traits. Can we do 3? Absolutely. We could do 3 traits, but that makes for a very large Punnett square, and at that point you want an Excel sheet to plug that in. Can you do more than 3? Absolutely. Well, the more you keep adding more and more traits, the more you need a information processor, a computer, to do all the crosses for you. But when it is just one cross in a monohybrid cross that has the 4 squares, or a dihybrid cross which has 16 squares, that's still simple enough to do with paper, or in this case a whiteboard, and a little bit of patience. Once it gets very complex with lots of different traits, then of course you're going to need more resources to do it and much more time. I'm going to attach with this video an assignment so you can use the monohybrid cross and a dihybrid cross, so I can check to make sure you understand how to do both of these. If you didn't understand one of these processes, go back and rewatch it. FOIL is not hard. First, outer, inner, last. It's just like in math class. Don't forget to FOIL it and then plug it in the correct order from, if we're talking about dad, from the left to the right, and then if it's mom's, from the top down. Best of luck. I'll post this assignment shortly.